What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and this is NFL Week 9, your fantasy DFS preview. Of course, I'm joined, as always, by one of the most accurate fantasy rankers and projectors in the game, the odds maker, Sean Kerner. Sean, what's going on?
Well, sorry, it's _evens maker now, but good. We're coming off an even week, so I'm doing good. Hopefully I can avoid a disaster on an odd week and kind of break this cycle. I still want to have good even weeks, please. But if I could have a good odd week, I can be called the odds maker again.
Yeah, you called out Cedric Tillman last week on this pod. He had a couple touchdowns. We had a couple 2-touchdown guys. I had DeMarcus Robinson on Thursday, and then you had Cedric Tillman on the Sunday slate. Garendo also got a touchdown. Khalif Raymond got in. So another good week as far as touchdowns on the pod. But we'll get into our favorite cheap play for every game on the NFL Week 9 slate. But quick reminder, all of our fantasy content available over at fantasylabs.com. Our award-winning rankings, projections, DFS tools, and more over at fantasylabs.com. And before we get started here and talk all things NFL, a reminder that Sean and I have teamed up with DraftKings, and they have got a new way to play fantasy basketball and win cash prizes. It's called DraftKings Pick6. Sean, you and I are both big NBA fans, especially once the NFL wraps up, but we're all over Pick6, and here's how it's going to work for people out there. You got 2 to 6 NBA players that you pick. You're going to choose if they're going to have more or less of a stat. So more than, less than points, assists, rebounds, all of the normal box score stats. You lock in a lineup. You compete against your opponents for a shot at huge cash prizes. And when I'm building my pick set, strategy is a little different from DFS, but one thing that I am always looking for is correlation. Sean, I know you're kind of looking at the same.
Yeah, I think correlation is massive because, if you get one of them right, you're more likely to get the other. So if you're looking at a player to get more than their points or three-pointer projection, you could look for their teammate who tends to pass them the ball in those situations and take, more than their assist projection. So I think getting correlation within teammates is huge.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking more Pick6 with you in the coming weeks, Sean. And just a reminder to all the listeners out there, if you want to play too, you can download the DraftKings Pick6 app. And right now, new customers can play $5 on their first pick set and get $50 in Pick6 credits. You just download that DraftKings Pick6 app and use promo code FLEX6 at sign up. All right, let's go over to the main slate. First up, we'll go with the ugly one. Patriots at Titans. Titans favored by field goal. The total is 38. And I'm going to go with Nick Westbrook-Akine, the wide receiver for the Titans here. He's 3,500 now. Part of me says that probably won't be here next week saying you got a touchdown out of him because he scored in 3 straight weeks. So the regression monster is coming, but I just think this spot is too good to pass up at 3,500. He ran a route on 95% of the dropbacks last week with Hopkins out of the picture, Treylon Burks on IR. So Westbrook-Akine, remember, he's been productive at times in the past with this Titan team when other guys have gone down. He seems to always, he's like the Justin Watson of the Chiefs. He just never seems to go away. But he's been more productive than Watson, obviously. So like Westbrook-Akine here, and this is the Patriots. Not necessarily a tough matchup for opposing wide receivers, and you got the new quarterback, and it's kind of coincided with just him getting more playing time. So I don't know if the production is all due to Rudolph, but I do think that you can't turn down a 95% route rate at 3,500 because I still don't think he's going to be like overly popular just because of he's Nick Westbrook-Akine. So I'll say I'll roll with him. Chargers at the reinvigorated Cleveland Browns. Chargers 2-point road favorites. This is still a low total here at 42, but who do you like in this game?
Yeah, well, first off, I have no clue who's going to be suiting up for the Chargers, so can't even attack them right now. I'm going to go. Well, I can't use Cedric Tillman again, use him 2 weeks in a row. Let's go with Elijah Moore at 4,200. Everyone's benefiting from having Jameis Winston under center now. Jerry Jeudy too. So I think Elijah Moore is sneaky, even after an 8-catch, 65-yard game. But I think everybody's going to be all over Tillman here. He's, just $100 more expensive. So why not, right? So I think Elijah Moore, just by proxy, he's going to be way underowned at 4,200. And again, this is a spot where pretty much everybody in this offense is benefiting, including Moore. And, the Chargers do have a good defense, but they've allowed the 5th most yards per pass to slot receivers, which is where Elijah lives. So I think it's just a sneaky spot for, a leverage play with Elijah Moore here.
Yeah, he's going to be the guy that's overlooked on that Cleveland offense going forward. And yeah, we know with Jameis, anybody could pop at any moment, as we've kind of seen. Washington at New York Football Giants. Washington favored by 3.5 on the road. The total is 43.5. I'm going to go with Noah Brown here. He would have been held catchless if he didn't get that Hail Mary. So maybe people won't be too many people won't be on him anyway, because he just had that one catch. It obviously was very fluky. However, 82% route rate for Noah Brown was tied for the team lead along with Zach Ertz. Terry McLaurin's been running a few less routes these days. He's still obviously going to be very productive, but Jaden Daniels will be healthier. This will be a game in which you aren't going against what I keep telling people is a very good defense for the Bears, except on Hail Marys, obviously. But Bears are going to, I think they're going to kind of mute teams' numbers all season long. That's just a pretty good defense that people are kind of sleeping on. So this week, Noah Brown going against this Giant defense that they just benched Deonte Banks, their number one corner. Just not a very good pass defense. They let Russell Wilson throw for above 270 against them. Short week for them. So, yeah, give me some Noah Brown against the G-Men this week. Denver, Baltimore, in Baltimore. The Ravens are a 9-point favorite. 44 is the total. Denver been looking good out there, but they've been getting some easy ones. Now it's a tougher test. Where are you going?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the rookie, Troy Franklin here. He's 4K. Coming off a really quiet game, just one rush for like 3 yards, one catch for 6 yards. But this should be a pass-heavy game script against, again, a pass funnel defense in the Ravens. And Franklin's playing time took a hit. Denver used more 2 tight end sets. But should go back to more wide receiver routes just in general with the trailing game script. So that's going to give Franklin a boost. And he's, the type of player that has big play upside. So he doesn't need a ton of playing time or a ton of targets to really hit at 4K. And again, he's been showing, he already has a ton of chemistry with Bo Nix. They played at Oregon for a couple seasons, so already has that chemistry. But he was really starting to come into his own before last week's dud. So I think right now is kind of a time to buy low on Franklin, and his rostership will be really low here. But I think this is a good spot for him to have another good game.
Yeah, I was kind of mentally just making bets with myself, trying to figure out who you were going to say for this one, because I was like,
oh, nice.
I feel like you might have gone with Lucas Kroll. I know you like him.
Don't tell me it's a good time, yeah.
And then I know you just love saying you love saying Lil John Humphrey instead of Little Jordan. So I was like, maybe he just wants to do that again.
That.
You had a lot of different options. And then I know you like the other Ricky too, Vele, in all seriousness. So, but there are a lot of options. But I think Franklin is a guy who I think he probably played a little less last week. A lot of guys did for Denver because it was against Carolina. They were up big, and I know people are talking about, they ran up the score late. Well, yeah, they did. But if you look at their snaps, they were kind of rotating guys, and they didn't have their main, what I think are their main starters, because you never know, in there for a ton of snaps. So I think Franklin's snap rate, it was down a little last week. I think there's a good chance it climbs back up. But this Denver team's probably going to be a good DFS, just like dart throw team, because they that receiver rotation kind of shakes up a little bit every week, and no one really wants to roster any Broncos. So if you can hit on the right one, nice little contrarian play there. All right. Dallas and Atlanta, high total game at 51.5. The Falcons favored by 2.5. Oh wait, no, I'm skipping one. Let's go Let me go Vegas, Cincinnati first, then we'll get to Dallas. Vegas, Cincinnati. This is not as fun of a game, but the Bengals are favored by 7.5. The total is 45. Vegas did look a little bit better with Jacoby Myers back on that offense, but I'm actually going to go to a player on the Bengals who I think is going to be overlooked because he had his another dud, and that's Andre Yosevich at 3,900. Now, if T. Higgins is back, Yosevich still had a 75% route rate with Higgins, but Burton caught a long pass last week, and Mike Gesicki went off. And so I think that you can get some leverage by rostering the player who, regardless of what's going on with Higgins, he's going to have the most routes run out of Gesicki and Burton and himself. Gesicki topped out at 60% last week, and that was in like a come from behind game script. That's when Gesicki tends to get the most snaps because they like the rookie Eric All better, who's also an option, but they like the rookie Eric All tight end better on early downs, in their run game and things like that. So if this game script from what we expect from, Cincinnati being at home, favored by a touchdown comes to fruition, I think you're more likely to see Gesicki post a dud. All probably gets like 3 catches, maybe nice touchdown or bust guy, but Yosevich has a chance to still be on the field almost every snap with either a banged up or out Higgins. So I'll go with Yoshi here. All right, now Dallas, Atlanta. Who do you like in this one with the high total?
Yeah, I mean, the two very top-heavy teams. Again, I mentioned Jake Ferguson on our projections pod. I think he's probably, the guy I would really load up on here. But if we want to go like contrarian dart throw kind of play, I think Rico Dowdle, especially at 6K, might be interesting because, he missed last week due to the illness. Zeke and Dalvin Cook filled in, but neither looked, too great. So Dowdle should return to, his lead role in what should be a high-scoring game. So he has, massive touchdown upside here. Plus, he's just a sneaky kind of play, especially since he is so pricey. I don't think a lot of people are going to be on him here, but his rostership will be low, and he's nice leverage against Dak and the passing game and GPPs because every time Dowdle scores, a rushing score, that takes away from Dak and, a pass catcher. So I think Dowdle, if you want to go contrarian here and like bigger GPPs, is the way to go. But like true play, Jake Ferguson in this game, like I think he's going to blow up here. But he's probably more for cash games.
Yeah, I was thinking the same about Dowdle, to be honest, only because I do remember seeing a quote from somewhere in the Cowboys media. I probably just don't remember who said it, but it was a report that I think Jerry Jones himself wanted Dowdle to get more touches. It might have even been a quote from one of those interviews. But either way, this and then they elevate Dalvin Cook and Dowdle's ruled out. So now it kind of looks to a lot of people like probably almost like they maybe soured on Dowdle a little bit. But in reality, I think it's Zeke that they probably soured on. Maybe he saved his at least game day active status by he got in the end zone, got a couple of decent runs off. But Dalvin Cook might not even be elevated again too. That's a whole nother thing because the interesting thing about this and the reason I think Dowdle is still going to be their number one running back regardless is even with Cook up and Elliott, handling lead back duties, they still played Hunter Lipke about as just as much, even more in some passing situations. So, he's like a Carson Steele-ish kind of like they list him as a fullback, but at this point he's just playing running back. So I mean, he throws a couple of lead blocks in the lines of a true fullback, but rarely. So I think Zeke. They've obviously soured on Deuce Vaughn, but I wouldn't trust Zeke, and I don't think Dalvin Cook showed enough, honestly, to where he's going to be a big part of the mix. I almost feel like they elevated him for Jerry, and now that he's had a bad game, they're like, all right, Jerry, we saw like Dalvin Cook didn't do anything, so let's go back to this guy Dowdle. So yeah, I think Dowdle's still the running back one in Dallas. I know it might not look like that after what happened, and it was a primetime game, so people probably have a certain opinion, but I think it's Dowdle. All right, let's go to Saints and Panthers. The Panthers are a touchdown underdog at home. The total is 44. And got to roll with my guy Taysom Hill here. He is 3,800. ran a route on 38% of the dropbacks, played on 40% of the pass snaps, got 4 carries. This is a perfect game where you could experiment with all those kind of Taysom Hill formations and things. And this is a spot where, unlike recent games, the Saints could be in the red zone a lot. Carr might be coming back. The Panthers defense is just awful. I mean, awful. So this is a great spot for Taysom, but this game could be interesting on both sides. So I'll give another one on the Panthers side. Jalen Coker at 3,600. He's got my attention as well because he looked good out there in a pretty tough matchup against the Denver Broncos. Ended up catching a touchdown late in the game, and he's been on the field a lot. It's kind of gone under the radar, but 80% of the pass snaps last week, 72% average over the past 3 weeks. And now you trade Deontay Johnson. You're essentially admitting, I mean, we already knew this, but you've thrown in the white flag. You admit that you're tanking, and this is the time to play a guy like Coker, who you probably didn't even think was ever going to give you anything, and all of a sudden they're playing him over Jonathan Mingo. And I hate Jonathan Mingo. I just didn't think the minute he stepped on the field, I just didn't think he was it. I just didn't think he just couldn't separate, and it just I thought maybe he would play better this year. I think he had to get a game or two, but the fact that he's already been demoted with all these injuries, with Thielen out and Johnson out, Coker's playing over him, and David Moore played over him last couple weeks, I believe. So I don't think Mingo comes really back in the picture, and that leads me to believe Coker's going to continue to be a top 3 receiver for this team, regardless. So he's a guy that might get a good dart throw or 2 weeks out of him in the coming weeks. Buffalo, Miami. This should be a good one. 48.5 the total, 6.5 in favor of Buffalo. They got receivers now back in Buffalo, so they're starting to look a little like the Bills of old. So who do you like? Who do you like in this one?
Keon Coleman at 5,400. With Amari Cooper playing more this week, his role's only going to grow more. He's going to get more chemistry with Josh Allen. I think the main wide receiver who's going to get the biggest hit with Cooper role growing is Mac Hollins. We've already started to see that. But Khalil Shakir's going off. So I think people are going to gravitate towards, Cooper and Shakir most of the time. But Coleman's been thriving too. And I think just the fact that he doesn't have the pressure to be the guy, the number one receiver, like he kind of had going in the season, is helping him because he has big playability. It seems like week in, week out, he makes a huge play. So I think it makes a ton of sense here at 5,400. I don't think his rostership will be too high here, but he has that big play upside, that, high ceiling. And they've been more pass heavy. Josh Allen's thrown for, I believe, over 280 yards in back-to-back games. So more than capable of stacking him with 1 or 2 pass catchers. So I think Coleman, of the 3, has a ton of upside, and I think might be overlooked now. You can go with Shakir, Cooper, or anybody, but I think Coleman probably offers the most upside with maybe lower rostership. So I think he's the play in GPPs for me from this game.
Yeah, I think it was last week on our Fantasy Flex Waivers pod, I said Coleman shouldn't be, available in as many leagues as he was, even though they got Cooper specifically for this reason. I think that just the acquiring Cooper opens it up for everyone else, and it also signals that they probably are kind of considering going a little bit more back to that run-pass balance in their heyday. I get that you don't want Josh Allen, make like doing some of the crazy throws and mistakes, but I don't think he had a pick this year until last week. So he was doing fine either way. But you gotta throw when you have Josh Allen. Like, that's the thing. You can take a couple of interceptions. They still won 31-10. Like, it's not going to kill you to throw 1 or 2 interceptions here or there if you could throw for 300 and you could run for another 60 or whatever it is. So yeah, I like Keon Coleman as a player. I think he's coming on. Second half of the year, we kind of see these rookies take off, and that's a good segue for Bears Cardinals. Cardinals favored by 1.5. The total 44.5. Roma Dunze 4,900. I know Caleb Williams didn't look very good against the Commanders, and he's had some just ugly, rough weeks mixed in with some very good weeks. But the one thing that pops out every week to me is that Roma Dunze might be the Bears' best receiver. Like, I know that sounds crazy to say, but separation-wise, just explosiveness wise, I think Rome Odunze looks better than DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. Like, Keenan Allen is just a crafty veteran. He's still a great route runner. I love me some Keenan Allen. And then DJ Moore, I don't know, he just looks a little off at times. Like, it's just some people are saying he's like dogging it. I don't know if that's I've never heard of DJ Moore be one to dog it. So but then they did have that kind of weird spat where they would kind of analyzing his every move on the sideline. So maybe there's more to it that I don't know. But I just think DJ Moore is just not that kind of player. He's just he's going to use his strength and things like that to win and routes. And I just sometimes there's not as much of a margin for Eric throwing to him. So him and him and Caleb it's kind of been touch and go there as we've seen. But Rome Odunze 3 catches, 41 yards last week. He's at least had a floor of 40 in 4 of his last 5 games. He had one true blow up that was back in third game against Indy with 6 for 112 and 1. But I do think that they're probably seeing on film the same thing we're seeing, and he's gonna start getting more plays drawn up for him, and because I think he's the guy that's gonna win on a lot of routes for this team on the second half of during the second half of the season, because defenses are still, when you look at the Bears offense, you have to respect Keenan, you have to respect DJ Moore. So and Kmet has been, for the most part, performing well. So I think Odunze is still a guy who he's going to have some more blow up weeks. And I think this is a good spot against weak Cardinal pass defense. Jacksonville, Philly, Jacksonville. I mean, I don't know who's playing for Jacksonville. I know Christian Kirk isn't. All 3, I mean, that is nuts. All 3 of their starting wideouts go down. Brian Thomas, Kirk, of course, and Gabe Davis left the game very early as well with the shoulder. So keep that in mind. And then Philadelphia, we'll see if they get Goddard back, but they're mostly healthy outside of that and losing their left tackle. But the spread is 7.5 in favor of Philly. The total is 46. What do you like?
I think the sneaky play here is backup tight end for the Jaguars, Brenton Strange at 2,700. You mentioned it. There's just a ton of injuries at wide receiver right now. Christian Kirk's out for the season, unfortunately. My boy, Brian Thomas Jr., I think he's fine. I don't know, but he's hurt. Gabe Davis is banged up, so they might be down 2 or 3 wide receivers. So I think Parker Washington, if you want to attack wide receivers, might be the best bet. We'll know more later in the week. But I think, and Evan Ingram might catch 10-plus balls here, but I think that Brenton Strange would be the GBP play because he could benefit as well. He caught 5 passes, 59 yards last week, after everybody got hurt. So it's a situation where the Jaguars might be forced to use more 2 tight end sets since they're so thin at wide receiver, especially in the red zone. So I think Strange, his reception odds go up, his touchdown odds go up. I just think he could be a sneaky contrarian play where people might gravitate towards the backup wide receivers that step up here, but it could be someone like Strange who actually does benefit the most.
Yeah, absolutely. Parker Washington will probably be very popular if. I mean, he's going to be in the lineup regardless, but he'll probably be pretty popular. I do like him as a player, though. But yeah,
exactly.
All right, Rams, Seahawks. It's about to pick them actually. It's been jumping back and forth between Rams and Seahawks, but the total is up at 48.5. For this one, I'm not going to go back to Demarcus Robinson. I think he'll still be the number 3 receiver and be on the field, 80% of the time or so. But it's a little crowded in that receiving room. So I think the play is Colby Parkinson at 3,700 because he has been kind of quiet this whole year, really. I mean, he had a 13 target game a few weeks ago, and game before that he had 4 catches, but he really hasn't done much. But he's been on the field almost every pass snap, running a route about 75-80% of the time in every game, if not more. So he's the guy that's still going to be on the field, and if he catches a touchdown or gets a bunch of catches, it's going to be leverage on the shiny new toys who are back in Kupp and Nakua, and then you have a bunch of options, like more expensive options essentially all around in this game on both teams. So I think Parkinson's the guy that's going to be on the field just as much. And I considered Noah Fant too, but just kind of seeing what's up with DK Metcalf, I think it matters a little more for him because he doesn't run a route on as high percentage of the dropbacks as Parkinson. So I like Parkinson here. All right, Lions and Green Bay Packers. The Packers are 4.5-point underdogs at home. The total 47.5. Jordan Love hasn't been officially ruled out, right?
No, yeah,
So we could get Malik Willis. Yeah, we could get Malik
could.
Willis. Probably will, but they haven't ruled him out. But you know how they're. I don't know. Maybe because it's just different this year. You just never know. I think teams are really kind of taking advantage of the injury, uncertainty. So it could go either way. So yeah, they said Love isn't ruled out. So I'm assuming. Assume he's in until not. But either way, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, that would be rough for the Packers to have kind of a run-heavy game plan like that going up against the Lions. I'm not touching the Packers now. We'll see how that unfolds later in the week. I'm going with Tim Patrick at 3,500, coming off a big old goose egg last week. Didn't catch a single pass, but the Lions didn't throw much. Goff threw, 85 yards, or was it 86? Does it matter?
85, yeah. I think
85, good grief. But, Patrick ran a route on 74% of Goff's dropbacks. So I think he should see, similar playing time with Jameson Williams, serving the final game of his 2-game suspension. So I think he could be a sneaky bet for a touchdown if they do get, they will get in the red zone many times, but he's a bigger wide receiver. So would not be shocked if he gets in the end zone here, but just love his upside in a game where the Lions might actually have to throw, assuming the Packers keep this close. He's a player that probably would benefit Jordan Love playing, but either way, I think that at 3,500 coming off a goose egg with, touchdown upside, I think he's a sneaky flyer in GPPs at least.
Yeah. Oh, Tim Patrick he was the guy that really he took over that role. Raymond and Allen Robinson.
Your boy, A-Rob. Yeah.
Right. They split the number 3 wide receiver role, but Tim Patrick was on the field for, I think it was 84% of the pass snaps. So he is that wide receiver too, and for at least one more game. Sunday Night Football, Colts at Minnesota Vikings. Vikings are 7-point favorites, the total 45.5. And I'm going to go with A.D. Mitchell here, the rookie. He has had a frustrating year, a lot of drops, some alligator arms, some just miscommunications with Anthony Richardson. But because we're getting Joe Flacco here, I think he's got some intrigue. He did have his best game with Flacco in that start against Jacksonville, caught 4 of 7 passes for 38 yards. And that was one of only 2 games where he had a catch rate above 50%. There's been just a lot of miscommunications, but he's had a bunch of air yards that have been unrealized. And I think with Flacco kind of chucking it and just the aggressiveness of this Minnesota defense, that he might find himself in single coverage and could give you a big player too. So give me some A.D. Mitchell.
Yeah, and his target rate's out of control this year. If you look at his game log, he gets over a 30% target rate every game. Basically, just whenever he's on the field, the play is meant to go to him.
Yeah, they're trying to take some shots to him, and now they have a quarterback that can actually complete shots. So it's a good mix.
Exactly.